Hi, I'm Shay Oliver. Welcome to the Priority Paradigm. I'm sharing stories of amazing people who've made radical changes in their lives for something more important. Today, I'm joined by Joyce Feustel, and she has a wonderful story to share with us. So without further ado, Joyce, tell us your story.
Okie doke. Well, I'm Joyce Feustel, as you said. I was born in December of 1948, so you doing the math, I'll be 70 in 2 months.
Oh.
And there aren't too many people who are 70 years old that are not only rocking their own social media, but they're helping other people, especially people in business, to show up better on LinkedIn and also on Facebook from a business standpoint. Now, how is it, you may ask, that someone of this vintage age has caught on, A, to social media, and B, has the chutzpah to say, the guts to go out and present herself as someone who can charge an hourly rate, not over $100, I might mention, to help others. Well, it really goes back to my upbringing in the 50s and 60s in rural Wisconsin. My mother was a teacher in the 40s, a home mom after that, and she always was an educator at heart. She read all the books we'd read in high school. She always liked to learn. And I figured I'd be a teacher like my mom. So I might throw in the fact that my dad was the kind of guy that never met a stranger. He could talk to anybody, anywhere about anything. We'll just throw that in because that comes in later.
Yeah.
So I went to college at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, that commie university, as my dad's poker playing friends called it, from conservative Wisconsin. I went to this commie university in 1967, and actually was pretty exciting back then. This is the anti-war movement and a lot going on, and we were one of the targeted campuses by the anti-war movement. So there's another little paint a picture here. I went from a high school class of about 300 to a university of 40,000 people.
Woo,
I've got to move if you think about it.
Yeah.
Sort of like a CU Boulder would be comparable for those watching this from Colorado, University of Colorado in Boulder. At any rate, so I think I'm going to be a teacher. Student teaching doesn't go well in English. Then I think, oh, I'll change majors. That's it. I'll get a master's in health education. So I get that degree, and I do a little bit of regular, where they paid me type teaching 1 day a week. And it was just enough to show me I'm too much of a free spirit to belong in a structure where bells ring and you have to have the schedule and see the same people every day. It was not my cup of tea at all. So I worked in public information. I went back to school again. I got a nonprofit education and ran a nonprofit. That didn't go well. I kind of busted careers, I'll be honest, in my 20s. And my husband, who by that point we've been married, I want to say 8 years almost, and he goes, baby, we've been talking about baby. After that next master's degree, can't we have a baby?
No.
I'm like, okay, all right, baby. All right. If you want a baby, I can probably do baby. He's the excited one. I'm like, oh, well, I guess we'll get around to that. So we have a baby in December of 80. And by the way, I was also into politics. I was a member of our county board back in Wisconsin, which is like a citizen type legislature, not like we have in Colorado here. So I'm doing that. In fact, in 1 month's time, I got pregnant, elected to office, and offered my nonprofit job. So it was a big month back there in 1980. So I quit my job when I had my baby, and then I was a home mom all through the 80s, really involved in the community, yet still, raising my kids. And in the 90s, then we moved out here to 1995. My husband and I were 46 years old. He was trained as a lawyer. He was writing laws for the state of Wisconsin. He got a great opportunity to come out here and work for his professional organization, the National Conference of State Legislatures. So in 1995, we moved here, and I knew no one, which was horrible. Because back in Wisconsin, I was a somebody. They always say Joyce Feustel, former county board supervisor. People knew me, and I was like, fed my little ego. So we come out here, and I'm still 46, trying to figure out what to do. Now that my kids are getting kind of older, no more excuse to just being a home mom. I shouldn't say just, that's a big job in itself. So I fall into sales to someone I did an informational interview with, and I ended up then working in sales for 17 years. Chamber of Commerce, Better Business Bureau. I managed salespeople with 2 different trade organizations. And my last stretch was in education sales with the University of Phoenix in enrollment, and then later the College for Financial Planning, which is an entity that provides distance education to people who are financial planners or want to get into that field. And I was in enrollment. Now, well, it was during that stretch, 2010. I was 61 years old. And I ended up working 3 more years after 2010. So I was there about 6 years. It was in 2010 when my then manager noticed that I was the most social media savvy of our enrollment team, as we were encouraging our financial planning students to follow us on Twitter and like our Facebook page and join our LinkedIn group. And they were even paying us some money for a while. And I would leave that little incentive pack month after month after month. Figure probably paid for my first smartphone. That's the way I'd like to figure it. And my manager, 35 years old, let's paint this picture again, I'm 61, was rather, I will say, I think a bit in awe of me. That me, at the age of his parents, actually knew more about LinkedIn than he did, and maybe almost as much about Facebook as he did. So he says to me one day, so Joyce, since you're so darn good at getting our students, our financial planning people, to engage with our college's social media, have you ever thought about helping other people in your boomer generation to understand social media like you obviously do? Now, I'll be honest, I'm almost embarrassed to say that at 61, I had no plan post-retirement. I didn't. And so that's maybe where the mold gets a little broken here to fit, who you like to talk to. I'm super involved with Toastmasters. That's a communication and leadership group. So I think in the back of my mind, I figured I'd hang out and I'd go to a lot of Toastmasters meeting and be kind of even more than the Toastmaster junkie I already was, because I'd have all this time on my hands and probably, frankly, would have annoyed a whole bunch of other Toastmasters. There's that old lady, again, can't she just join some other club because we're sick of her? Well, they were spared that. They were spared that because my manager planted that seed of have you ever thought? And if anybody watching this thinks about it, haven't people said to you in your lifetime, have you ever thought? Like this lady, when I did the informational interview, have you ever thought of going into sales? Gives me an aptitude test, I do well, she offers me a job. I hadn't contemplated going into sales, but remember my dad, the guy that can talk to anybody, anywhere about anything? I have a knack. I have a knack for being in sales. So at any rate, here I am running my business. So 3 years later, that's the other thing. Because I have these busted careers, you've heard about them. I'm 61, I'm getting too old for this. I want to say a bad word, but I won't say it in public. So I'm too old for this matter of getting stuck in things I don't really want to do. So I made myself kind of have an internship, made it up. I would go around and beg my friends from Toastmasters to have me give them a review of their LinkedIn profile. And they'd say, was there something wrong with it? I go, oh no, I didn't say there was. I just want to practice. Think of me like a student teacher. I just got to practice to see if I'm A, any good at it, B, if I like doing it, and C, really, if it's any help to you. Oh yeah, okay. And at the end, they'd want to pay me. I go, no, I asked you. You could write me a recommendation. You have like 200 recommendations on LinkedIn. That's one of the reasons why I just asked for them. So I decided, yeah, I like this. So at 64 years old, 5.5 years ago, that's when I blew the pop stand. I retired, big party, sure beats being laid off, fired, other ways I've left jobs. It was a big celebration. And I just waltzed right into my business. I had the website up by then. I had a platform, etc. And I've been kind of changing this and morphing it, but mostly I focus on LinkedIn and Facebook. And I help people here in the Denver area face-to-face, but I've also started using Zoom a lot too. Both, sometimes people even here who live far away, we'll just do a Zoom session, or certainly people in other cities, and then they pay me through PayPal or send me a check, and I have this hourly rate. I also do some corporate training. So now what I really get to do is I get to take advantage of my training way back when as an educator, so I can explain things to people to help them learn on a very basic level. I take my ability to meet people immediately and feel like I've known them all my life. That's that aptitude my dad has. In the Strengths Finder, they call it winning others over. Or my dad had, he's passed away. So I really connect so many things. Oh, and I'm just a natural connector. Speaking of which, I have almost compulsively want to introduce people I meet in this networking group to somebody from this other one, and you should really know Susie and Bob. And people love that because it's a real value added I bring to the table in the business world. So it's like I'm somebody again. and that's sort of funny. Like I was back in Madison, Wisconsin, in that political world, the public policy world. Now I'm very well connected and highly regarded in the business community here in Denver. So it's really delightful to feel these last 5.5 years have really been the best 5.5 years of my life, because I feel that I have a calling now, where before I didn't really feel I had a calling. Not at all, unless you call parenting a calling, which is sort of a calling, but it's not a professional thing. Not
Right.
like my husband, the lawyer, my sister, the college professor, my brother, the research scientist, or for that matter, my brother, the dairy farmer. They've all of them done those things their entire adult lives. And I'm this little dilettante, running around doing all kinds of things. So yeah, that's my story. I'll stick with that.
That's actually a wild story, a wild ride through lots of different places, which is really cool. So I just have to ask, the first thing I have to ask off the top of my head is, you retired. Why did you not retire? What was inside of you that said, I want to do something more?
Well, because I've always just liked to be engaged with the community and give back. People would say to me when I did things with the League of Women Voters, like, they don't pay you for that, do they? And I said, no, this is okay, because I learned so much and I get to give back and use my skill set. And the same with Toastmasters. They don't pay you to do all the leadership work I've done there. So my parents, they were presidents of the PTA and leaders in the church. So I like to be engaged in the community. So, if I was more traditionally retired, I'd be doing, maybe be in a service club like Rotary or something.
Sure.
Yet it's so satisfying. Once I came up with this idea, well, really my manager came up with it for me, and I like doing it. I'm like, wow, I have so much energy, it's scary. So I have to have an outlet, and why not get paid for it and do things that are inherently interesting to me, and I get to learn all the time myself, because I'm like my mother, though. I just love to keep learning. So those are really the reasons why. I figure if you're making a contribution in some way that people benefit from them, then why would you hang it up? Those financial planner people I used to enroll in programs, they'd be in their 60s, 70s, even maybe 80. And I'd say, sir, why don't you retire? They say, why would I retire? I love what I do. My minister is, in her mid, maybe late 70s. She's not slowing down. So there you go.
Awesome.
So that's why.
So you start a business, you kind of, in some ways, like Colonel Sanders, right at retirement, at the point where you're supposed to be going one direction, you decided to go another direction. Were you scared of anything? Was there anything you were afraid of starting a business?
Well, I will say I was afraid of losing money, because I had a business when I was in my 40s that pretty much was in the negative every year. And I wouldn't say I'm doing the greatest here. I'm just kind of breaking even. This year I should actually show a profit, more so than my previous years. So I didn't want my husband to get mad at me for just spending all this money of, mostly his hard-earned, retirement savings, and just blowing it. So I think that was probably it. And also, I don't know a lot about business. I came out of this education background, and then nonprofit, and then volunteer work, and then sales. So there's a lot of like nitty gritty things, around like your finances, accounting, things that, I've got professionals that I engage to keep me on the straight and narrow and such.
Sure.
So I think that was true. And then wondering in a way how I'd market it, because my business, Boomers Social Media Tutor, I should say the name of it, Boomers like baby boomers,
Right.
Social Media Tutor. It's a rather unusual offering. So I have to explain it to people to see if they need it. So there's a certain degree of even education about what I do, and people say, oh, that's such a thing. They thought, many people think about social media management like, you do my social media. You're just going to do it, right, Joyce? I go, no. I'm going to teach you how to fish so you can do your own dang fishing and not have to rely on me. Oh, really? I have to do that? Yes, you have to do that. Some kinds of social media, like LinkedIn, you cannot outsource. No. So I think it's like helping. So it is sometimes a challenge, a mindset even, to help people without being annoying and pushy, to say, yes, you need a LinkedIn account to the 59-year-old lady looking for a new career. Yes, you might benefit from that. And then helping them see that it's worth spending time on. So there's certainly some objections that I need to overcome. So those Those I probably wasn't quite sure how to handle, and some days I still don't. It just varies.
Sure. So you are of a generation. I mean, I think about my parents who are older. They're older than you, and my grandparents. They all got on social media.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad. You don't do social media. But you're teaching a generation that many people just don't want to do it.
Right.
So what did people say around you? Were there things that were negative? It's like, oh my gosh, why are you messing with this?
Well,
As somebody who's older, or was it different than that?
What's interesting, I'm such an anomaly. Anomaly. Yeah, I'm sort of a outlier, might another word, in business networking groups that people almost have this fascination with me. So I don't have any other business people, especially the younger ones, saying, what in the hell are you doing this for? Why are you here? Why aren't you home with your grandchildren? Whatever it might be. No one ever says that.
Nice.
And see, I just don't hang out with other people that are traditional retired. So how am I going to find people who are going to give me a hard time? Does that make sense? And then my husband, Mr. Perfect, oh, you want to run for office? That's good. You go fine. You do that. Oh, you want to have a business? Oh, that's fine. That's cool. He is low maintenance, and he is very emotionally and practically self-sufficient. He can get by without me. So it's not like I have people that are like, oh, Joyce, I never see you. Someone today asked me if I had friends. I go, what kind of? I don't have like girlfriends that want to go to lunch with me and stuff, which is fine, because I'd rather go to a networking lunch than hang out with
Sure.
those people, because I like to be with groups more than one-to-one. So no, I don't have naysayers. So there you go. But then I don't even look for them. I'm kind of also very millennial-like. I'm more millennial than some millennials. I just kind of ignore the fact that I have gray hair and I have wrinkles in my face, and I kind of act like I'm 35 instead of 69.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah, age is a number. It's kind of a cliche, but age is just a number, really.
It absolutely is. So did you have any self-doubt when you started your business? I mean, you didn't have business background.
No.
So what did you just dive in, or was there actually a process you went through saying, should I do this? Should I not do this?
Well, I would say there was a 6-month period from when my manager gave me the idea that I noodled on the idea, just even launching into it at all, for about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was at this networking group, which I must have started going to. I know it's still working. I'm not sure when I started it going. And I was there and I just was getting inspired. And I think I am going to launch this thing. So I'm talking with this guy, because I'm an extrovert. You have to be talking to know what you're thinking and what you are. So I say, I've got this idea for a business, something about social media, but I'm not a guru or a consultant. I'm kind of a tutor, because trained as a teacher. But it's not for everybody. It's for older people, boomers, baby boomers. So I'll call it Boomer Social Media Tutor, which is kind of a mouthful. But I remember when I came up with the name, that felt real. And I registered it with the Secretary of State, which felt even more real, in October of 2010. So I would say it was at that point that I officially launched my business, in more ways than one. So then I thought, okay, like I was telling you, I'm not ready to run right out and do this, because I wanted to keep working to get more money toward my Social Security. And it's it's a pretty good sized income I'd be walking away from by retiring at 64. I thought originally I'd work to 67, which is when you get, for my age, you get a little bit more Social Security.
Right.
So then I was like, I was ready, and my office was moving further south. I already was driving 16 miles one way to work, and on to the tech center from Lakewood, and from the suburb of Denver where I live, and so to another suburb. So I just felt ready to go. And then pretty quickly, I found people that were kind of business colleagues, and it all evolved. I've been in 2 masterminds now for 2 years with just me and 2 other people. And one of them is me and a boomer and a lady about 40, and the other is me and 2 millennial ladies. And those are people I can tell them anything at all. Oh, and I've had an accountability partner since like the month after I started my business. And we talk by phone every other week. She's in her late 30s, I believe, and is a writer, an editor and writer. So to have someone who gives a hoot about your business, who wants to hear what you have to say about it, that you can in turn be a sounding board for them. I can't tell you how important that is. So that's what I've done. I've taken classes here and there, but I think it's those people in particular that have really made the biggest difference in me moving my business, forward and upward and expanding and taking risk and doing videos and things that I wasn't quite sure I was ready for. And I did it. So there's a fearless element of me, aspect of my nature that
I can see
probably
that.
is my dad showing up in me.
So as you launched into your business, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in the business?
Well, like I say, just making sure I could do the operations part, just that I had the paperwork right, so I wasn't breaking any laws, or, so I did my finances properly. So just that part of the the overall operations of it was a challenge, which I kind of just self-taught, or people helped me as I went along. I thought maybe you should have QuickBooks, and so the lady goes, no, an Excel spreadsheet. Your life is not that complicated. Just use Excel. So I would, turn to her. She was a bookkeeper. She knew what she was talking about. And then, like, would people want to use my services? I mean, that's kind of the bottom line probably for anybody. So then I found that if it was a kind of a hunting and pecking, that's not the word I want, but sorting, sifting and winnowing maybe. So I'd go to a networking group and feel like, does this group feel like it's really a good fit? And I'd see, and I would always track all the time, of course, everyone should, where their business comes from. So then I'd see, oh, this networking group, this one's really paying off. So I'll still stay involved in that group. So I think in the beginning, there's a certain degree of hit or miss when you think about it in terms of where to find, and I get about 70% of my business through networking. And I would say also by now, about 40% comes through referrals. So that's encouraging to see that move upward every year, and really great. And some repeat business. The tricky part with my business model, the way I've created it, is that I have to keep bringing in new business, because I teach people and they're off fishing, so to speak, and they don't need me anymore because they're doing their own thing. Thank you very much. So then I have to get new people. See, as opposed to if I was managing somebody else's social media, then I'd have a recurring amount each month, right?
Right.
Like a retainer or whatever you want to call it. But to be honest, that would bore the heck out of me, kind of like teaching did, because it would be the same person doing the same stuff. And then, the other thing, I have enough of an ego that I want my name behind what I put up. I don't want to be writing for dentist so-and-so, and it's all like under his name, I'm this ghostwriter or something.
Right.
I don't like that at all. I want my name and the headline and the headlights and all of that. So it is more work that way, I will say. And like, I don't luckily have to make a lot of money with this gig. I just at least want to break even and make some money, maybe even more money every year. So it just takes keep showing up and showing up and showing up. And the other challenge I have is to use my own LinkedIn better. Like, there's this feature called Sales Navigator. It's one of the paid levels of LinkedIn. So I got to keep pushing myself to go and learn that better and to be more, I'll say I have not been as much of, I'd call it a hunter in the sales standpoint. I'm more of a gatherer. So you give me the leads and I'll work on closing them. That's how I work a lot of my sales over the years. So now it's better for me to go out and like call up somebody and say, hey, I've worked with other commercial realtors, and John Carter said I could talk to you. I hope that's okay. We had that email introduction, and might I suggest coffee? So, to go out and actually prospect, that's still a challenge for me, even with my time of sales, to be that bold, so to speak.
Very, very cool. So, having gone from being the employee to being the business owner, what has changed about you?
Well, such a good question. First off, I might observe that when you are an employee and you are a commission salesperson, you are your own boss of yourself. I once managed 2 sales guys at a state trade association here in Colorado, and they would look at me and say, you're really not the manager. You may be technically the manager of us, but we generate our own business here, because they were straight commission sales guys.
Right.
So I will say it's different than being like a corporate employee, where you have a structure and you have your marching orders and you do this and this and this. So salespeople, by their very nature, have to be pretty entrepreneurial, is my opinion. However, there's a structure. When I was in sales in my last job, I was at work from 2 days a week from 7 to 4 and 3 days a week from 8 to 5. And I had a certain number of calls they're supposed to make and a certain quota. And so there's people with expectations that you darn well better meet, or you might not keep that job. So it's that forcing a sense of, I know, sort of urgency, being my own accountability partner, as well as this lady I talk to regularly, to say, okay, well, let's look at last month's numbers and what are you going to do about this month's numbers, and really say to myself, let's keep hustling here. So it's this constant really wanting and needing to keep growing and expanding, growing and expanding. So you have, it's just self-motivation, even more than when I had a manager, because there was someone kind of really, he would listen to my calls, he would give me feedback. So I don't in a sense have people giving me feedback about my process other than my own clients, who I did a survey in May, and it was very helpful to find out what I did well and where I could improve. So I want to do more of those. I definitely need to. But most of the time, I have clients and they just love it. I mean, they're so happy. They give me feedback of what they're getting out of the session. So that's really very heartening.
Cool. Very cool. So do you think it's changed how you look at the world, having your own business versus being, employed even as a commission?
Right. Yeah. Part of somebody. Oh, yeah. It's just so much freedom. And I think that when you're with another outfit, you gotta toe the party line. I mean, you better not speak out of school, to use all kinds of cliches. You gotta be really careful about how you represent yourself. And you have a certain structure to your day. But with working for yourself, no, let me point out something. I'm a person who doesn't believe in revealing my political beliefs on social media in a one-to-one, unless there's some context when it makes sense. I really am very, very careful to keep all that away from business, because why do I want to piss off 50% of if someone said at lunch today, 50% of other people? There's no point in that. So I work very hard at keeping diplomatic, keeping even-handed, whatever type of approach.
Sure.
Yeah, what's nice for me is I can choose how I spend my time each day. If I want to put time into, like today, it was all networking. It was all networking. It was one-to-one networking. It was my leads group. It was this other monthly group I go to. So I'm there and I'm showing up and I'm present as I possibly can be for each of these one-to-one or me in a group settings. And then maybe like tomorrow I have a lot of one-to-ones, but I have a luncheon group. But it's pacing myself, which is challenging, I'll say, because I'm the one that has to say, Joyce, maybe the reason you got that cold in October is because you were overdoing it. Oh, fancy that. So I have to really be realistic about how many places I can go and what I can do. And even in my kind of quote unquote spare time, I still involved with Toastmasters. Two of my clubs luckily only meet once a month and one meets twice a month. So it's just 4 times a month. I can manage that. And I go after 21 years because like somebody might go to be in the choir if they like to sing. So I like to go to Toastmasters because I like to speak, I like to mentor, I like to lead. And I learn and I help other people learn. So it kind of goes back to the teacher in me.
Sure.
So you have to think, what feeds me spiritually, what feeds me emotionally, what feeds me intellectually. And you get to choose. If I want to work till late at night, which I will, sometimes I'll be doing client reports back to them after a section. I'll be doing that between 9 and maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. I have a lot of energy, believe it or not, in the evening. Oh. In the morning, I'm not so much. So that's the other cool thing when you have your business, you can go with your biorhythms, that whatever it fits you and you can follow that, which is pretty cool.
No, it's absolutely 100%.
You can relate to that.
I can relate to that because mornings are for coffee. So, at least for me, they are. So, you are happy having your own business. You are having a blast.
I am.
That just comes screaming through to me, which I think is awesome because I feel the same way. It's an awesome way to be able to live your life. It's so cool that we can do that. You waited till 64, 65 to do this. If I'm going to ask a question that has 2 parts. One, if you could go back and give your younger self some advice, A, would you? And B, what would it be?
Oh, would I start my business earlier? Well, I think for me personally, that everything had its place in time and contributed. There's a wonderful talk, and maybe you've seen it. Steve Jobs, 2005, I believe, Stanford University.
Yep.
We talked about that, to the graduating class of Stanford. And he uses this precious phrase called connecting the dots backwards, and talks about how the calligraphy class he took at age 19 at college informed how he designed the Apple computer. So if he hadn't gone to college and taken that particular calligraphy class, the Apple computer might look different than it did and does today.
Or might not be.
All those things, all that sales experience really helps me. If you go into your own business and you have no background in sales, you can really have a challenge, even more than I had, with going out and calling people up or showing up at networking. So I think and the Toastmasters, that too. That's helped me because I do a lot of training and I do a lot of free speaking. I can go to any environment, anywhere. Once I find the outlet, get my equipment plugged in, and I can go around and schmooze and meet the people. I'll go to an audience and I'll treat them like I've known them all my life. So all of that couldn't have happened if I hadn't had if somebody had invited me into Toastmasters and I had spent all that time there. So I think that as much as I like doing this now, it's also less, frankly, risky financially to do it at this stage in life, as long as I don't go hog wild and spend a bunch of money, because I like to some degree that I had the financial sort of quote unquote security that I had in those other jobs, albeit when you are working commission sales, it's not unlike having your own business. So I think I wasn't maybe even emotionally and practically ready. Some people are ready when they're 22 years old, and I say go for it. That's great. But I don't have regrets. I think that the fact that those experiences in my 20s didn't work out, I have a lot of compassion for people that have careers washouts. I mean, it gives me more empathy for people in tough situations. So
absolutely.
I guess in the sense I would, because I had that business, come think of it, back in my early 40s that struggled. And yet I was a mom. My kids were young and they were in grade school. I mean, you're a dad. I know you are. And those years go by all too quickly. So I would have said to myself, work harder, put that business, make it happen, and neglected my children. Well, that's not a good thing.
No.
That's not right. That was part of the deal with my husband, is he goes to work every day and he's a great dad in the evenings and weekends, and I'm the home parent during the day. So I think that it all really did turn out okay. But that's an excellent question. It really is very thought-provoking.
Yeah, it's interesting because some people are like, oh yeah, I would say, and then they start thinking it through and kind of come to some places you are. It's like, yeah, I wish I could give myself some advice, but still get all the experience that I got on the way.
Yeah.
So maybe I would get more out of the journey that I've already taken. But that's,
right.
It is an interesting question. The one thing that you probably are dealing with your clients almost on a daily basis is the concept of, I want to change my life. It may be a career change or some form of change that people want to make. What's the advice that you tell people that are looking at heading down a direction that might not be normal? What type of advice do you give them?
Well, the first thing I said, like, this lady is a client of mine. She wants to be an optician, and she's not worked in that field. She's worked in an extremely different field. And this is kind of my standard advice, is go and do informational interviewing. Get reality check. Because sometimes you can romanticize a particular line of work. And when you get talking with people, a range of people, so you need to do this with not just one or two, but several or more than several. Now you're starting to get a better picture of what's really involved in this. Maybe you want to buy a franchise. Well, talk to people who bought franchises. What's the upside? What's the downside? Talk to maybe career advisors that could help you form a set of questions. Also, I would say career coaches are excellent. They can really help you with those types of transition periods, pivot periods. So that's probably a big part of it. And what helped me too, like, mine a little different, but I found a lot of kindred spirits online on LinkedIn. So it's interesting because you can actually you could have a Zoom session. You can meet someone in Australia and have a Zoom session with them about doing X, Y, Z.
Anything.
So anything, right. So take advantage of the tools that are out there and go for it.
Oh, absolutely. So you have some crazy cool experience that you've gone through, some ups, some downs.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most important thing in life?
Well, I think you're the God of your understanding, your spiritual underpinning, because to me uh, that's what sustains me.
Mm-hmm.
Not always necessarily in a religious way, but in a spiritual way.
Sure.
So I think if you feel spiritually grounded and spiritually fed, you have a lot more faith in your ability to take risks and know that you and that God of your understanding is there to guide you. And to realize when people speak, like when my manager said that, Joyce, have you ever thought of, to me, that was God that spoke through my manager. And I think that's really the way I frame it, that you can learn things from people that in unlikely ways sometimes. And to be open, always to be open to somebody's observations and not just say, I've tried that, I don't like that. No, let's give it another thought. That was then and this is now. So I think that it's really ultimately your health is obviously important. I've been struggling with this cold, so that's certainly up close and present for me. Yet I think is when you have that, and I think a supportive family is really important. Or if you don't have a spouse, have friends, circle of friends that are interested in you and believe in you. But don't rely on them to talk about business stuff because they could probably give a hoot. I mean, sometimes people are genuinely interested and they're good sounding boards, but that's a lot to ask of a partner anyway. So
Right.
I don't think you be putting too many eggs in any basket. I mean, you really need to have different types of people to go to for different kinds of things too.
Sure. Absolutely. Totally agree. Totally agree with you on that. Very cool. Very cool. So, you're a fascinating individual. I think it's
Thank you.
so cool that you're kicking ass in social media.
Well,
And
thanks for
are,
finding me on LinkedIn. We wouldn't be talking if you hadn't, asked me to connect.
yeah, no, I'm a massive LinkedIn fan. I love LinkedIn. It's a great tool for so many things. I mean, a lot of people look at it and just say, "Oh, just career things," but no, I think it's great for making connections and learning and
Right.
so many other things that you can be doing. So if people want to know a little bit more about you or connect with you, what are the best methods and ways to do that?
Well, I think the simplest way is for them to go to my website.
Okay, and what's
So
the URL?
I'll say it kind of my URL, www. I know we can just start with that. And then it's Boomers, B as in boy, OOM as in mother, ERS. Boomers like baby boomers in a plural on the boomers. So Boomers and then social, watch out for the two S's. So Boomers Social Media Tutor, TUTOR,
Cool.
.com. boomersocialmediatutor.com. It's pretty much got all the information you'd need. They could also look me up, Joyce Feustel, F as in Frank, EU, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, so it's FEUSTEL. There's only two of me that I can find on Google. So they could go on Facebook. They could, not exactly friend me, and maybe not so keen on that. But they could go to my business page, same name as the business, Boomer Social Media Tutor. They could go to LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn. Pretty easy.
I had a feeling you'd say that.
Yeah, what's that?
I had a feeling you'd probably say connect with you on LinkedIn is a good place too.
I mean, the problem with Facebook, this sounds strange, but you cannot put a reason why you want to connect with someone. Isn't that annoying? Well, yes. I don't know why Facebook doesn't have that feature, but it doesn't. It's like, who's that dude? So I go and I look him up in my LinkedIn profile. In my LinkedIn, my database. I'm sorry, in my database, my CRM. And if they're not in my database, and if they're not connected to me on LinkedIn, and I can't recognize them, I generally will not accept that Facebook friendship.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't feel comfortable doing that.
And you're, not to be sexist here, but you're female. If you're a guy with an open connection, I do not need that many stock images of people in skimpy bikinis, women. I know what they're trying to do. I mean,
no kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it's an old sales pitch on a new platform.
Right. That's true. That's really true. So LinkedIn is a very safe place to connect with anybody. And that's a good place to start. Yeah.
No, I think it's a wonderful place too, because you can connect with some amazing people.
Oh, through Toastmasters, just a quick story. I was involved with the Toastmasters, International Toastmasters group on LinkedIn. I'm still technically a member. And this is really right right around the time, that's right, before my manager gave me the idea for the business. And I was very involved in leadership in Toastmasters at the time. And I love the fact that I could find like-minded people all over the world
Yeah.
that could advise me on things I was stuck on. I could advise them on things they were stuck on. And that's really what hooked me into LinkedIn back in 2008, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, what a concept. I'm just a click away from all these, like you said before, all this rich information, all these wonderful people willing to help. And it just intrigued me. So yeah, the groups are great. I don't think that people use them enough. I don't use them as much as I could or have. It's great. It's really a nice place to just learn and share and,
Absolutely.
difference.
Absolutely. Well, Joyce, thank you so much for spending so much time with me today. This has been a fun conversation. I really enjoyed learning about you. And I always wrap up with the same question. And I know a little bit of your story. I know a little bit of you now, but there's always something that I don't know. And so the question I have is, what question should I have asked you?
Oh, wow. What are your daughters up to these days?
Great
Remember
question.
those daughters born in 1980 and 1984? One of them, I might mention, has got a book coming out at the end of the year called Our Favorite Movies, How Movies Affect Our Mental Health. She herself has a mental health condition, which has informed her in writing this amazing book, part memoir, part review of literature, part movie reviews. And then my other daughter, who's really rocking her work in Planned Parenthood and has a little girl with her husband, of course, a little 3-year-old Hava. So yes, I am a grandma and a cute little granddaughter out in Burlington, Vermont. So those would just be, I'll just throw that in for fun. Yes, I do.
Absolutely.
And my sweet dear husband, who is happily retired and is just my best friend and everything for 46 years. So I'm very blessed.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Joyce, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have enjoyed this conversation, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck as you go out there and keep showing the world how it's done.
Thanks. Well, you've inspired me today. Thank you.
Thank you.